Okay, so the presentation, oh, the audio is still coming out of multiple places here. Hold on.
You sound good to me. I don't know, maybe it sounds different in the room. If anybody else is having issues, go ahead and throw it in the chat, but it's sounding good to me right now.
Okay. So the presentation is called Managing Refuse Processes Using Survey123 Dashboards and Experience Builder. And what we did is over the last summer, we kind of built a whole suite of applications for our refuse department to kind of get us away from the 1990s in technology. So the Columbia Heights Refuse Department is underneath Public Works, and we do a couple things that are slightly unusual but not unheard of. We own all the recycling and garbage bins, but we contract out to 3 different vendors for the actual services themselves. So we have one vendor for recycling, one for bulk, and one for organics/compost. We manage all the communications between the residents and the vendors, so they don't contact the vendors directly. Everything goes through us. And then we also manage all the billing that goes directly to the customers, to residents. We only do residential. We don't do commercial refuse. So it's all just for the residential ones. So what we did is we had an analysis of needs, and previously communications between the vendors, the residents, and us were all handled by a mixed match of text messages, phone calls, emails, and voicemails. And it was really hard to keep track of any individual request, any individual change, or even know what each vendor was doing each day. We kind of had to just do a lot of guesswork on that. So we want to create a user-friendly form to log any customer requests and complaints that come in, either to our front desk or when somebody calls in. It's currently not available to the public. And then we want to provide each vendor with a single stop way to see what's assigned to them and active for that day and what status is in. And then we can also view what their progress is on those requests. And then the other thing is provide a user-friendly way for our refuse coordinator to confirm that the requests are complete. When they're complete, close them and audit them as needed. Because we have exactly literally one person doing all the refuse coordination here. So what we ended up building is we created a Survey123 Connect form that logs all the request information that comes in. And I used a couple of the sample XML from Esri to add it and configure it so it'd be a little bit more interactive than normally would be. We also built a dashboard to track the vendor activity and progress, so we know how many requests we have active out there, how many each vendor has, and how they're doing. And then in addition to that, we built a vendor-specific interactive map. So each one of the vendors has a map built on Experience Builder that shows them what the requests are that they have, what the status is, and a table of the attributes of those requests. And they are able to edit the status and the notes, but they can't change anything else on it. And then we also wanted to build a couple simple interface to manage the requests and status updates once they're completed by our refuse coordinator. So the refuse request form that we built, and it took us a couple months to do this, but it reads the current information from each account and shows it to the person taking the request. It collects all the information about the nature of the request as well as contact information for each resident. And then the resulting feature class will automatically update the vendor's interactive map based on the nature of the request and who's assigned to. And then all that also feeds into a dashboard that displays currently the number of requests active assigned to each vendor as well as the status of those requests. So this is kind of how the form looks. Yeah, okay, so here's the information. Any notes that we have about the property, if it's multifamily or not, where it's located, the current refuse and recycling services that they have, what day it is, if they signed up for the organics and so on. That can also be closed. So once they, if they don't need to verify, they can just close it and go back to the actual form itself. We'll take in their phone number, email, then their request type, and based on which request type gets sent, it will answer a separate question with more specifics. And then they can just put in the notes about the call and then select which vendor it goes to, and it has information about what vendor does what for the city. That's basically how that part works. And go back here, presenting teams. So what we did was a little bit of customization on Survey123 Connect. We select one to autocomplete the enable the data to show up for the property using the get record that and pulls the information from a CSV file that has all the addresses that are active. And then we have a couple of dynamic clause that use concatenate and pull data to pull that address information from the file and create the point in the feature class. And then we use pull data to get the information about the current information. And we have certain questions that show up based only on previous questions using dynamic drop down for that. I don't know if you can read this, but this is the the code that we wrote for the smart drop down for the individual questions. Might be a little bit hard to read. So I can zoom into it. No, it doesn't look like I can. Okay. Went back. Did I go back? Okay. And then here is the kind of the main form that runs the original information on the XML sheet, and pulling the individual data from the CSV file to fulfill those questions, those individual questions, with the dynamic information that the vendors and that the people taking in the information is. And this is built so that our front desk staff can fill the forms out. Anybody else that gets a phone call in the city that from somebody requesting something refuse related, they don't have to send it to the refuse coordinator. They can take all that information that goes directly to the refuse coordinator. Uh, and then, they know exactly what's going on and what's new. Then we build this dashboard for the refuse coordinator and see if I can make this full screen on my side here. Okay, it doesn't look like it. But it shows the total number of open requests for this day. So this is stuff that is currently being worked on. And then the work breakdown for each vendor based on the status. So red is just arrived, yellow is being scheduled or worked at. Orange is they're out to get, sorry, orange is they called the resident, but they haven't heard back. Yellow scheduled, and then green is they have fulfilled the request. The dashboard also has a couple other tabs that shows, and click on here. Let me show it a little bit more. It has the tracking map that shows everything that's currently open out there. So these are all the current refuse requests in the city, all 138 of them. Then we have a managed request editor so that if somebody calls back and they need to edit something on a request that they submitted, we can just go ahead and they can go ahead and edit the fields here as needed. If there's additional notes, they want additional changes or so on, they can put that information in there. Then also has a tab, and this is not on right now, but this is the tab that has the links to our accounts feature service that contains every active account and all the information about them. And then so our refuse manager basically uses this to update and manage the accounts based on any requests or any changes that they need to do. So that's that. And then it also has a link to a request form. So when he's opening that, he can see those. And we have a similar one built for the front desk folks. It just doesn't have the accounts table on it. So they just see it for the form when they pull it in. And then the final thing that we did is we built this vendor specific interactive maps in the experience builder. We made it so that it shows and it's filtered to show only the active requests for the vendor. So only things that are marked as active that are not marked as closed by the vendor yet, and they're assigned to that specific vendor. So each vendor, the three vendors, has a map that looks exactly like this that they can access, and it shows them the address locations of their sites, as well as a table with the information itself. And one of the things that we're going to do in the future is add a navigation feature to this so they can try to route to it. And these are symbolized with the status that they have, so they can see what are green, what they just finished, was red. And it shows them all the fields, but they can only edit the notes and the status on it. So they can't go and change anything else on the feature class or the service there. So that's basically what we built. Um, I have some of the XML forms that so this is the XML form itself for the service, and here's the main thing that pulls all the data for that shows the current. Um, yeah, there we go. That shows the current data for each client for each resident that's currently in the refuse layer. Then when you go further down here, we go to here, where's the interactive uh, dynamic questions pull down that will pull additional questions based on what kind of question what they answered previously. So if you submitted car type trash or new or type, then it'll open up the next question here and so on. And then it has additional information here that shows the contractor and request status and the and the request is closed or opened by our refuge manager. And then some of these have default values, so that these defaults initially to new or open. And then this one, he only has the access to change that information in there. I believe I saved the other XML forms that we used here. Seeing it. Oh, I know where it is. Pictures, refuge. So we have the get record at or get valid at sample form XML form from S3 that we use. So I basically just took this data, this code here, this JavaScript, and modified to work for what we needed to do with the form. And same thing with the get value at and the dynamic drop down. Those basically just cannibalize the sample from S3 and use it as needed. This was my first jump into doing anything JavaScript heavy, so it took me a while to get it to work correctly, but eventually got it to work, and it's being used by our refuge coordinator and our front desk people. And the only complication we had was when Google Chrome came up with the newest form, and it didn't work for some of these things, so we had to put a patch. But yeah, we have been able to track that. We have approximately between 100 and 200 requests that come in every day from the residents as far as changes, complaints, or bulk pickup. So, bulk pickup is anything from washing machines to for other furniture to things that are tires and stuff that they need to pick. And our refuse coordinator extracts data from the accounts feature class and from the request feature class and runs reports on it to figure out if we have an address that is submitting an acknowledgement amount of bulk requests. Like if we're picking up 3, 4 washing machines from one address, that's not normal activity. That seems to be unlicensed recycling center or something that's going on. So we've been able to do quite a bit of things with this, and things are working a lot faster. We've been able to keep track of where the vendors are and also audit the work that they've done, so that we're not getting overbilled or anything like that. So that's basically what we did. That's what I worked on most of the summer, in addition to the lead line inventory.